black cat was running strangely through a garden. Its body was covered in thick fur. Suddenly, the cat entered a dark room, as if it were planning to steal something. In an instant, the cat disappeared into the darkness, its glowing eyes shining brightly. Out of nowhere, the cat leaped forward, and Robert woke up in fear. Slowly, Robert opened his eyes and looked upward. He noticed how the yellow leaves on the trees looked beautiful in the sunlight. Leaning on the bench, he stood up and began looking around. Gradually, he rubbed his eyes with his fingers. Then, pulling his mobile phone out of his pocket, he saw the time and became a bit anxious. It was getting late. The clock showed 8:26 a.m. Realizing how late he was, Robert quickly got up from the bench and started running. He ran straight to his electric bicycle, climbed onto it hurriedly, inserted the key, and began pedaling forward. Riding as fast as he could, Robert soon reached near the school, but noticed the gate was already closed. Confused about what to do, Robert decided to climb over the wall next to the gate and entered the school. Robert is currently in high school. At 18 years old, he is about 5 feet tall with fair skin and brown eyes. After entering his classroom, he sat down next to his best friend, John. As Robert settled into his seat, John asked, "Hey, Robert, why are you so late?" "I came ages ago. I even thought you weren't coming today." Looking at John with a tired face, Robert replied, "I don't know why, but I didn't feel good this morning. While on my way here, I felt exhausted and uncomfortable. So I stopped my bicycle and sat on a bench for a while. Then suddenly my eyes got heavy and I fell asleep. I woke up after having a terrible dream." Hearing this, John burst out laughing and said, "Forget about that nonsense. I don't feel like listening to such boring stuff. By the way, during recess, there's going to be a fight behind the school between Oliver and Anthony." Robert wasn't surprised at all by what John said, as Oliver had always had a habit of getting into fights. Occasionally, he would clash with others. Standing at 6 feet tall with a sturdy and muscular build, Oliver had immense strength, and it often took more than 3 people to overpower him. However, Oliver's family's financial condition wasn't very good. Like John, Oliver was also one of Robert's closest friends. The 3 of them were inseparable. Amid the conversation, I suddenly realized that I didn't have my bag with me. It struck me that I must have left it on the bench. I turned to Robert and said, "I think I left my bag back there." Hearing this, Robert smirked and said, "It really isn't your day today. Everything seems to be going wrong for you." Once school was over, the 3 of us headed back to the bench to retrieve my bag. But to my dismay, the bag was gone. My heart sank. Staring at the empty bench, I anxiously glanced around. Oliver tried to comfort me, saying, "Don't worry. I'll check the nearby area to see if it's there." Turning to Robert, he added, "You search over in that direction." With that, Oliver and Robert went off in opposite directions to search for the bag. Nearby, there was a small stream with a bridge further ahead. Feeling disheartened, I wandered aimlessly. Lost in thought, I began scrolling through my phone to distract myself. Suddenly, I heard a splashing sound in the water. There wasn't anyone around, which piqued my curiosity. I cautiously moved forward and went down a set of stairs toward the stream. At first, I couldn't see anything unusual, but then I spotted something black floating on the surface. Curiosity got the better of me, and I stepped into the water after removing my shirt and pants. I didn't have to go far, as the water barely reached my knees. I grabbed the black object, which resembled a chess piece, a rook to be precise. Holding it in my hand, I felt an inexplicable sensation. Quickly, I climbed back up, got dressed, and slipped the object into my pocket. Then I returned to the bench. After some time, I saw Oliver approaching. He looked irritated. With a frown, he said, "How could you be so careless? You left your bag here and didn't even notice." While Oliver scolded me, John arrived and interrupted. "There's no point searching here anymore. Let's go to the police booth nearby and report it." We hopped onto our bicycles and headed to the police booth. After explaining everything to the officers, I was relieved to get my bag back. Feeling much better, the three of us decided to visit downtown. We roamed around, laughed, and had a lot of fun. Eventually, we said our goodbyes and headed home. When I arrived home, I noticed it was already 8 p.m. To my surprise, both my parents were home. My father, who is 47 years old, works in an office and earns a modest salary. My mother, who is around 40, has a much better paying job. Thanks to her, our family is financially secure and comfortable. After finishing my meal, I went to the dining table, pulled out a chair, and sat down. Without thinking much, I started eating. While I was eating, my mother asked, "How is your vision in your left eye now? Is it still blurry, or has it improved a bit?" I didn't say anything and remained silent. Once I finished eating, I washed my hands, cleaned up, and went to my room on the second floor. When I reached my room, I opened the window and looked up at the sky. I saw countless stars twinkling above. It reminded me of an incident 3 years ago when we had a car accident. My older sister, who was 3 years older than me, passed away in that accident. I sustained a head injury, and since then my vision in my left eye has been slightly blurry. Although I occasionally see clearly, most of the time my vision is hazy. Thinking about the past made me sad. My sister, Jenny, loved me a lot, and I loved her deeply as well. Remembering her brought a surge of tears to my eyes. I cried and cried until, without realizing it, I fell asleep on my bed. Suddenly, I started dreaming. In the dream, I felt a strange sensation. I saw myself inside a room, a house made entirely of wood. Out of nowhere, I sensed someone standing in front of me, but I couldn't make out their face. Suddenly, I noticed that the figure was pointing toward the window. In the dream, I walked to the window. When I opened it and looked outside, I saw a massive moon glowing red. Turning to my right, I saw the figure that had been pointing. It was now standing beside me. The house was 2 stories high, so I looked down and noticed a group of people staring directly at me. As I looked more closely, I realized that all of them looked exactly like me. However, their eyes were terrifying. The whites of their eyes were blood red.
Under the faint moonlight, I could barely make out their faces, but I couldn't bring myself to feel scared. Instead, I felt as though this was meant to happen, as if it was unavoidable. The figure beside me suddenly placed a hand on my shoulder. When I turned to look, I was shocked. It was my sister, Jenny. Overwhelmed, I cried out loudly, "Jenny! Jenny!" She looked at me and said, "Robert, there is great danger ahead of you. Don't give in to it." I was overcome with emotion and reached out to hold her, but Jenny stopped me and said, "Robert, it's not the time yet. You must leave now, or else it will come for you." As soon as she said this, I woke up abruptly.
When I opened my eyes, sunlight was streaming into the room. I realized that it was already morning. To my surprise, I noticed that my vision had become crystal clear. I could see everything around me perfectly, even objects far away. Reaching into my pants pocket, I found the strange black stone I had picked up earlier. However, it was broken. It looked like a cracked eggshell, hollow on the inside.